So I wanted to make a little tutorial video of how to use Google Classroom and how to use Google Meet. I know that your child used Google Meet last year if they were in CPS. However, they were using iPads and not Chromebooks. So I just wanted to go over how your child is going to access our Google Meet and how you can use Google Classroom. Now, we're not going to be putting assignments or anything on Google Classroom because it's really not that user-friendly for primary students. So we're only going to be using Google Classroom to find the link that we would be using to join a Google Meet and to read any announcements, ask questions using basically the homepage stream. So this is a sample one that I created. Usually, typically, when your child goes to Google Classroom, which is classroom.google.cps, they will have a little link off to the side. Now, I will hide that link until I'm ready for students to join for the day. So that way I have host control, so I can mute, I can share my screen, I can do everything a host would need to do. Because if a child joins first, then I won't have host controls. So over on the left-hand side over here, you will have a link that you can click on that will take you directly and open up a Google Meet. And we'll do that in just a second. And then this is called the stream on Google Meet. And basically, it's like if you have Facebook, like what you scroll through on Facebook. So every morning I will post an announcement, a joke. So hello friends, today it's Friday, January 7th, 2022. I'm excited to see all of you. What did the left eye say to the right eye? Between you and me, something smells. And if students want to respond, they can respond. If students want to say good morning, they can type it in and announce it to the class. I can send private messages as well. If I noticed something that needed to be completed or something, I can message just that child as well or group of students. So this is Google Classroom, and I suggest just always having Google Classroom opened up in a tab so that way you can bounce between the multiple tabs. So once there is a link here, then it would open up a Google Meet. Well, there's two of me. And this is what our Google Meet looks like. So I'm going to actually minimize this for a second so there's not aggressively two people on the screen here. So this is our Google Meet. And there are some things that I want to go over and remind you. So first off, when you join the Meet, you will automatically be muted. So just letting you know, automatically be muted. And what you're going to see down at the bottom is there is the mute button, and right next to it is a little camera button, and that's for your camera. So when it is highlighted red, you are on mute, and then when it's off, you're off mute. So make sure you're practicing that with your child. Now, a shortcut that my students really liked last year, made it a lot easier, is if you hit Control, then the letter D, it will unmute, and then if you do Control D, it will do the same thing. So that's a much faster way of being able to mute and unmute yourself is Control D. So Control D, mute, Control D, unmute, vice versa. Then what I like is the expectation that we have our cameras on. Now, it's not mandatory, but it is so much nicer to see your faces and not just stare at blank screens. So if this is video off and video on. So I prefer that everyone has their videos on, okay? Then the next button over here is to turn on closed captions. So if you want at the bottom of your screen for your child to have closed captions going on, you can do that, but it's not the most accurate, so I don't always suggest that. And then there is the share or present your screen button. We're not going to be worrying about that button unless I specifically ask for somebody to share their screen, but we're probably not going to be using that. And then the little dots over here for more options. So this is going to be important. So the little dots, one that you're going to really want to use is the one that's called Change Layout. So when you click on Change Layout, it's going to give you options. Auto will just highlight the speaker, and then you'll see yourself, and there'll only be a couple people on the screen. If it's tiled, which I prefer, is where you will be able to see as many students and friends in the class as possible, and you'll still be able to see who else who is speaking. Spotlight will be you only see the person who is talking. And then sidebar is the person talking is going to be bigger, and then you'll have just a couple people off to the side. So I always just tiled and then move the little slider all the way over so you can see as many of your friends as possible on the screen. So that's how you change your layout in Google Meet. And if you want to have a background, you can go to apply visual, so you can blur the background. You can add your own background if you like as well. And then we also have, if you're having any trouble with your microphone or speaker, that's where you go, is to the settings. And lastly, there is a whiteboard option. We're going to get to that in just a second. So then over on the right-hand side, you're going to see there's a little person that just tells you, if you click on it, who is in the Meet. And then there's a little speech bubble. That's the chat box. And the chat box can be used for answering questions, for asking questions. However, during instruction, we're going to try not to use the chat box, so that way we're not being distracted by what's going on. I will ask students to use the chat box, but making sure that you're only using it when asked. It's just like if we were in the classroom raising our hand to share instead of everyone just shouting out all at once. That gets very overwhelming. So there will be times where I'll just turn the chat off as a host and then we don't have access to it. But other times it'll be open, and please just remind your child to use it only when we are using it in class, okay? And then there are these little dots off to the side. So there's like a little circle, a little triangle. This is also going to be something you'll be using a lot in our Google Meets as well. So this is where you'll find your breakout rooms, your polls. So in a breakout room, I can set students up into smaller groups. And then when I send you to your breakout room, a little pop-up will appear, and it will say, assign breakout room 1, and you would say join. And then it will automatically put you into a breakout room with a couple of other students. I can set a countdown timer as well, so then once it's out of, if I give you 3 minutes in a breakout room, it will automatically then push you back into the Google Meet, the main room. When you're in a breakout room, there are options to like raise your hand and ask for help, and I can see that and jump into your Meet. So that's our breakout room. There are also polls. So if I ask a question and want you to choose an answer, or if I ask like, how are we feeling about this problem, and I put it into a poll, you can come over and do that. We also have a whiteboard feature where we can jump into like a Jamboard, and it's like a virtual whiteboard with Post-it notes that you'll see here in just a second on the screen. So you may have used this in kindergarten, but we use this a lot in first grade. So you can use Post-it notes. We can use it to answer questions. You can find photos. So if I just, I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. So you could also go to like Google image search, cat, kitty cat. You can insert that in there. You can make text boxes, highlight things. So Jamboard is a lot of fun, and we use it for math warm-ups, math talks. We use it to work in small groups. So if you're in a breakout room and you're in breakout room 1, you might be assigned to breakout room 1 in a Jamboard, and your group would work together to answer a question, find answers to something. So we use Jamboard a lot. So I just wanted to just show that to you, and it's something that I will definitely work through with students as well. So those are the major parts of a Google Meet that we will be using. Always just make sure that your child remembers to stay on mute unless hands up and they're called on. Making sure we are not using the chat box when we are not asked to use the chat box, and keeping the chat box respectful. And then also in the chat box, I can drop links in there as well. So if there is a Jamboard I want students to go to, if there's an assignment in Seesaw I want students to look at, or a website or something that we need to go and look at together, I'll put the link in there, and you can always click on that link and it will take you directly to the place that we are going to be going. So Google Meets does take a little bit of time to get used to, but once you get used to it, it was pretty easy. So the main things: I'm on a Mac. Control D is mute, unmute. The little three dots will change your layout to tiled, and you can change your background there if you would like. And then when a meeting is over and you can sign out, you can just do the little hang up button, or you can do Control W and it will hang up as well. So that is an overview of Google Classroom and Google Meet. I hope that was helpful. And if you have your own Gmail account, like a personal one at home, you can always open up a Meet just like I'm doing here to practice those things with your child. So I'm going to hang that up. Yes, I want to end the call. And I will also have another video of a walkthrough for Seesaw as well, which I know a lot of students used last year as well. So be on the lookout for that. All right, see you soon.